Paul Redman, our president, has asked if myself and one of my coworkers wanted to kind of spearhead this project of Change Your Filter. And so I'm taking over as well as my counterpart, Scott Awesome. We're really excited, but I was thinking, I'm like, man, who do I want to talk to first? Who do I want to have a conversation with? And I couldn't think of anybody better but Miss Jennifer Motti out of Las Vegas. And so we're going to kind of dive in and just have a girls chat here about all things HVAC, ownership, sisterhood, whatever we want to talk about. But Jen, thanks for joining us.
Of course. My pleasure. This will be the first time that I do a podcast that is just one-on-one. So I've done several, but I've never done one that's just me and the host. So I'm super excited to just be, I don't want to say be the only voice, but I don't like fighting for the spotlight, but I don't mind being in it.
Well, the spotlight is all yours today. So I'm really, really excited. And I'm just curious, Jen, what made you say yes? You're the first one I asked. And I was like, man, well, if she says no, I got some other people I can ask, but
I honestly couldn't have thought of a better person to do my first solo with. You and I are friends, and we have been friends for a couple of years now. And I feel like it's just a comfortable, safe space. To be able to, I can talk to you very candidly. You know my story, so it's going to be easy to, communicate that again with you. I just think that for the first time, it's always better to be with someone who is not going to be asking you the hard-hitting questions, or you might, but you'll do it with compassion.
That's true. Well, you mentioned your story, and I'm going to act a little bit naive today and ask some questions. So you are an owner-operator in Las Vegas, Nevada, Evolve Heating and Air Conditioning and Plumbing. Tell me a little bit about what brought you into the trade, Jennifer.
Okay, so my story, I think as far as, women in the trade, my story might resonate with a lot of women because it starts with my husband. So I'm a hairdresser by trade. That's where my passion has been. That's what I've always done. Had my own salon for quite a few years, almost a decade, and was very successful doing that. But that's a hard one. That's a really hard one. It's a hard business to own. It's a hard lifestyle to live. Doing hair is hard on your body. And we had the HVAC business that my husband started, which at that time was called Evolve Services. We just kind of sat down and took stock, what was I going through? What was it worth to us? How much stress and pain was I putting on myself, on my body? All of that was the juice worth the squeeze. And so doing the job of 3-ish people in the salon really was not as fruitful as joining on the HVAC side and helping here and helping this company and working with my husband. That being said, I'd never worked in HVAC at all before that. However, my husband is he's a talker. So I knew a lot about it, a lot. So it was kind of easy for me to see it. I could fit in, I could understand the lingo, and I could start to figure out how I can help in the business. I've always been a 51% owner since inception. So from the beginning, I owned 51% of the business. And so making the move into working in the business was, on paper, it was pretty easy.
And so Evolve Services evolved into Evolve Now. How long ago did you join the business?
So I started working with Evolve in 2021. It was late 2021, early 2022. And I was out of the salon mid-21, just completely stepped away from doing that and came over here in 2022. And then we did a rebranding in 2023 to Evolve Air Conditioning and Heating. I just kind of got sick of the Evolve Services. Well, what kind of services? You kind of get tired of hearing that all the time. So we were like, well, we got to fix this so that it's in the name. And so Evolve Air Conditioning and Heating first. And then when we got our plumbing license, which was about a year ago, then we added the plumbing on the end.
What I love, though, is it took somebody like you, coming outside of the business to see it from a different perspective, right? Services, maybe a contractor or somebody that's in the trade, they know what that means. They're like, oh, people know, right? But you hearing that, you're like, okay, I'm tired of it. Let's correct it and tell people exactly what we are so they know.
Yeah. You know what's interesting about that? I think just the fresh perspective, right? So when I joined the company, one of the first things that I did was I joined our local air conditioning association. I started doing networking events. I started getting out and meeting people because at heart, that's who I am. I want to get out there. I want to meet people. I want to know everybody that's in this industry, especially in my town. And I want to compare notes. What are you doing? What are we doing? What are we doing right that's working? Or, how have you been through this struggle? How did you come out of it? So I'm constantly talking to people. And before that, there wasn't anybody really doing that. So they didn't get asked that question. But once I started getting out there and talking to people, that was the first question. Well, what kind of services? Well, what services do you offer? And so immediately I was able to see, just through meeting people or meeting new people or people in the industry, they were like, well, they didn't say that we should change the name, of course, but if they were, in their questioning, I figured that out pretty quickly.
2022 to now, a lot has happened. So rebrand, and you've grown the company and been working with the husband for 4 years now. Like, what's that process been like and experience?
Let's start with the working with the husband one, because that one, I think I don't get that question enough. And I think that there's a lot of us out there that are in this situation, and not too many people are talking about it as much. In the beginning, it was challenging. Like I said, my perspective was completely different than what was already going on in the company. And I came in with a whole bunch of ideas. Well, I've already run a successful company over here. Granted, it was a different kind of service, and they came to us for service rather than us going to them for service. So there's a little bit different model going on there. But I had a bunch of ideas, and my husband had been running the company for, 4 years before I ever decided to come over. So he had his own ideas as well. It did cause a little friction, not gonna lie. I have a little bit of a strong personality, and I'm like, hey, this is what I'm doing. And he's like, hold up. That's not what you're doing. So we did have a little bit of growing pains, kind of figuring out who's doing what and how are they doing it and what is the vision. But I do have to say, we probably have never been closer than we are now, because those kinds of things, it's just being a business partner is this almost the same as being married. So we've already got that one, half of it figured out. We just had to learn, how do we roll that into the business too? But we honestly, if you asked him today, how is your relationship being partners with your wife? He would answer the exact same way. He would say, we've never been closer. Being business partners has been the best thing that's happened for our relationship. And we've just figured out the groove and how to communicate and what the things are that we just make decisions and roll with it, or what the things are that we have to come together and make those decisions together. So I don't want to say we have it 100% figured out. There's no blueprint for it, but just instinctively we're in that space where we're like, okay, I can do this and he can do that, and we just roll with it. So that's worked out really well for us. So growing the company, that's been fun. So we've been through many iterations of adding employees and then kind of letting that attrition occur where, we whittle down our work staff. We're about $1 million company as it stands. We're about $1 million. That's just kind of where we are. Last year, I had some really, really lofty goals. I was like, we're going to hit 2.2. We're going to do it. We're going to grow. We're going to hit 2.2 in 2005. And where I have all these budgets, I have all these marketing plans, I have all this kind of mapped out for how we're going to, it was the first time ever that we actually sat down and created a budget the year before. We intentionally hired, to fill the org chart the right way and put the right people in the right seats and like figure out what the seats were that needed to be filled. And then, hired a service manager, hired someone to help us with marketing, and hired an ops person, staffed our service techs, and trained. So we hired early. We infused a bunch of money. We hired early, and we trained early to be ready for all the growth that we were expecting to experience. What we didn't know was that here in Las Vegas, the HVAC industry took a 40% hit. So there was a 40% decline in 2025 in Vegas versus 2024. So we didn't know that was coming. We grew. We did not grow 120% like I wanted to, but we grew about, if I think about the numbers, we grew about 20%, which is a little bit of growth. It's way better than a 40% loss, right? But it's all top line. So here we are. We grew our top line by 20%, but I hired, I marketed, I trained, I did all of these things, which, you're just basically throwing money at all of these things in order to accomplish those goals. And then the growth didn't occur. Here in Vegas last year, we had the coolest summer on record. So there was no weather demand. We did a bunch of marketing and like I said, we experienced some growth off of our marketing, but it wasn't nearly enough to offset all the costs that we had based on the budgeted growth. So last year was tough. Last year was one of our toughest years. August 2nd, we made the decision to cut staff because we were like, this isn't happening and you got to stop the bleeding somehow. And in order to pay for all of the expenses that we've now occurred, you got to get in there and make those reductions so that you can cover all of the stuff. So you don't go bankrupt, obviously. You don't want to do that. So yeah, that was a really tough decision to make too, because now I'm affecting people's lives. That was a hard one. But yeah, we cut our staff and we just took the end of last year to regroup and figure out, okay, what did we do wrong? How do we fix it? How do we, get back to a solid baseline? So we spent the last quarter of last year reducing overhead and figuring out where do we go from here? How do we learn from this and move forward? I think our biggest takeaway was that a lot of it is unpredictable because nobody could have predicted the coolest summer on record in Las Vegas. And the rest is like, we know how to restrict our overhead. So we did that. And now we're back in black. So by February, we paid everything off that we owed and we, fulfilled all of those obligations and did all that. And by February, we were back in the black. So we're okay. We're not at risk of losing the company or closing our doors or anything like that. And we're actually profitable, which is awesome. It's a great place to cover. It didn't take us much time to fix it because we're smaller, but that's where we are. So now we're back to where we need to be. Great net income ratio at the end of the month, each month right now, and figuring out, all right, what does this mean? What does this mean in our climate in Las Vegas?
Now, you mentioned going through that toughness, right? And then is there anything or anyone or a certain resource that you kind of reached out to? Because you said you were out connected, you were reaching out to people or meeting people, but is there anything that you can say or truly attest to kind of get you mentally through the toughness of that as well, or just advice? Or
it's funny you ask. So I remember the date so clearly because Catherine Howard, now Catherine Jacobs, one of my very close friends, on August 2nd, we went to an event together, me and her and my husband, and we were sitting there talking. She's like, how's things? And, we just told her everything. We just word vomited on her. This is where we are. This is what we're doing. This is what we're thinking. We're really thinking that we kind of should probably have to and she was like, yes, do it. So it was that push of you guys, you already know the answer. You know what you need to do. You know how to, regain your footing. You know exactly what needs to happen. You need to do it. And you need to do it yesterday. You don't need to think about it any longer. You're not making a bad decision. But, it's really hard when you're sitting there thinking about I'm going to affect a bunch of people's lives with this one decision that I make. And I don't really, it doesn't feel great to tell somebody that they don't have a job anymore, But yeah, she definitely was a great sounding board and someone that I could go to and say, hey, I just need a set of ears that has no skin in the game. And she was like, yeah, you're doing the right thing.
You said something that I can relate to is we know the answer deep down. Sometimes it takes that peer or trusted confidant to be like, come on, dude, you know the answer. Just do it. And you're like, ugh, it's just tough. Because it's an emotional investment. You care about people, but end of the day, it's a business. You have to run, you're not running it to be bankrupt. You're not running it to close its doors. You're running it to be profitable.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
So you said you're in Las Vegas. I remember when I first met you, you mentioned Las Vegas is no other market in the industry. Why is that? I'm not familiar with, based upon what you told me, but why is it a different market like none other?
So Las Vegas is, if anybody knows anybody in the industry, y'all know Ken Goodrich, right? So Ken is from Las Vegas. So this is where the playbook was written. People who live and work in this industry in Las Vegas have at some point come across or worked for somebody that worked for Ken. And so the playbook was written here on how to conduct your HVAC business for it to be profitable, and that whole mindset of how you do business, which then means, hundreds, if not thousands of people who go out to start their HVAC companies have been trained by Ken or somebody who else, somebody who was trained by Ken or whatever, and has that mentality of, let's call it what it is. It's a sales mentality. I'm trying to like dance around it, but there's no dancing around it. It's definitely a sales mentality. So it's really hard to open a service company in a city where there are, I think at last count, there are 300 HVAC contractors in this valley. Just to put Las Vegas into perspective, I think the entire valley is a 25-mile radius. Imagine that. I can service my company can drive across this entire valley and service up, down, north, south, east, west, the entire valley without a problem in a day. We can go everywhere. It's not a big place. There's 300 people, 300 contractors doing that, right? So, and then they each have however many trucks on the road. There's a lot going on here. So not only that, but every single PE company that there is has a company in Las Vegas. Every single one. You name it, they're here. So our competition is deep pockets. So as a smaller $1 million business, I can, but I'll probably go bankrupt competing with a PE group. They can pay. Last summer, I think it was last summer when we did an analysis, and it was $788 for a click on Google. $788 for one click. So what does that mean? That means you have to sell. Like, I don't even care what you're selling. Sell something. So, and it better be over $1,000 at least to cover the truck roll and the advertising for that call. Like, there's really no way around it. So things like that, like the Google pay-per-clicks and LSA and all that stuff, I don't even get in that arena because I don't have a sales force to go in and like hard sell customers and do that kind of thing. That's not our game. Our game is you call us, we give you reliable service, we repair your unit if it's repairable. Otherwise, we tell you what's going on. Like we're really building trust. We're really building relationships. We really want you to call us repeatedly. And then when the time comes, then we'll do your replacement, but we're not out trying to pay such a high price for leads so that then we have to sell. Then there's a lot of pressure in that.
And I love too, one thing about your company is like you're very, very proud of the brand and that you have all your vehicles wrapped. And I think the first time I met you, you rolled up in one of your vehicles and I was like, oh my gosh, that's Jen on the car.
I picked you up from the airport in it.
Which is a fun fact. I think it'd be cool to say like how we first met. We were introduced by Stephanie Postel with Anchor Heating and Air in Charleston. You reached out, you texted me. I had never met you. And you're like, hey, I'm Jen. Let's chat. And I said, hey, I'm going to be in Las Vegas. And you're like, I'll pick you up from the airport. And I'm like, really? I'm like, you're going to pick me up? And I'm like, man, this is VIP service. I didn't have to call an Uber or get a taxi. And you took me and we got to hang out that weekend.
We did get to hang out that weekend. And that was the Rilla event here in Las Vegas. And what's really fun about that is that I got to go to the Rilla event that weekend. They invited me to stay. It was a great weekend. And then we spent even more time together just in the exhibit hall and stuff like that. We really got to know each other. One of my best pickups that I've made, I have to say.
Yeah, what I was going to say. Yes. I still owe you a tip. I didn't tip you. So one thing, Jen, I love about you is like you're super involved. Like I follow you on Facebook. We're friends, obviously. And you do so much. Like you do some consulting, you help out friends, you do all this stuff. Tell me a little bit about that. And like I know that's something you really, really enjoy. And so being a business owner, you do that as well. So tell me a little bit about why you do that.
Here locally, remember I was saying that when I joined the company, that was one of the first things I did was like start to like reach out and look for like, who are my people? Where's my tribe? And I'm just really, really bad at letting that be it, right? Which I think is really good because I like to be involved. So when we joined this is the silliest name, but our local contractors association is called SNARSCA. It really sounds silly, but it stands for Southern Nevada Air Conditioning and Refrigeration Contractors Association, SNARSCA. That organization has been around for a really long time. Like it was started like in the 70s or the 80s. I think it was the 70s. And it's really just a group of, HVAC contractors here in the Las Vegas Valley that get together every month for they have educational meetings, and then they have board meetings. I'm on the board of directors now. I'm the vice president of that. And then we have like a charitable arm and an education arm and stuff like that. So few things. At our luncheons, we try to do some sort of education for HVAC business owners, whether it be training, sales training, workforce stuff, presentations from our local utilities, the electric company, the water company, like how is it impacting our businesses, stuff like that. We try to bring some value to those luncheons so that we can educate our business owners without them having to go and like seek out this information. Like we try to bring it to them. And that's pretty great because we all get together, and it really ends up being like you sit down together and you start. It's the networking part that I love the most, because you sit down together and you start comparing notes. Actually, we had a board meeting yesterday where I sat down and I'm like, who's slow? And everybody was like, we're all slow. Don't worry. So at least you get like that peace of mind of like, okay, it's not me. It's everybody's experiencing the same thing. But because I can't leave well enough alone, I am the chairperson of our largest fundraiser that we do every year, which is called the Chili Willy. It's a golf tournament. So I do that for Snurska. And I also plan their mixers. So I get to do the fun stuff. So we have like June, July, and August. We do mixers instead of lunches so that we can all like let loose on a Friday and have some, social time. But, all in all, we're here to unite contractors, find results that work for, that definitely work for most of us. And then also we have a charitable arm kind of that we give scholarships to students who are currently or recent graduates of trade schools. So we raise money to help those students. And then we also help them network. So we're trying to figure out like different ways where we can usher more students into the organization and help them network with HVAC contractors and stuff like that, help them, build their careers.
What are those conversations like? Like with the new, the new crew coming in from schooling, like, are they asking questions like what's out there? What can I do? Like, what do you do? Or are you guys kind of directing them and kind of opening their eyes of like what they can do?
It's really interesting. So here we have several schools that have an HVAC program. So one is at the local college, the College of Southern Nevada, and then there's, I think, 3 technical schools, and then there's a private college. I think there's quite a few different programs here in town because, like I was saying, the number of contractors that we have and stuff like that. And it really depends. I want to say the ones that come out of the college are more geared towards like the commercial, like working for companies that do more commercial work. And so they're definitely, I think they come out with a stronger education in the commercial side of HVAC. So like those bigger systems and stuff like that. The ones that come out of the trade schools typically are looking for the residential work. So those are the guys that we get to see a little bit more often. The guys coming out of and occasionally a female from the trade schools. And those people are oftentimes coming out with a little bit of an unrealistic expectation as far as where they're going to start, what they're going to earn, and what they're going to be doing when they do start. So it's there's a little bit of education that we have to do with them as well. Even through the interview process, when you sit down with them and we're like, okay, what do you know and what can you do? And probably 8 out of every 10 that we talk to will say, well, I definitely want to get into a position where I can learn more. And we're going, okay, we need technicians. I thought you learned that at school. We need you to come in and hit the ground running a little bit more, So there's a little bit of a gap between trade school and work where they, I think, need a little bit more than what they get in the trade school. We're learning that if we're not in the market for a helper, we can't hire those guys because they don't know quite enough. I do think, and so now I've been asked, I'm saying yes to this, which is why I'm saying it a lot. I've been asked to be on the advisory board for one of the schools. And I think this is one of the things that I'll really hammer in on is yeah, the education that they get is okay if they're just going to be a helper or an apprentice or something like that. But when we need technicians, we don't need somebody who needs to learn more. We need somebody, maybe there needs to be an advanced program or some sort of a thing like that where we can get them more so that they can be more job ready when they come out of school. Yeah. And then the pay scale thing is a big one too. A lot of times we get students and they're like, well, from what I understand, you're going to pay me $35 to $45 an hour. And I'm like, well, not if you can't climb a ladder, not if I have to put you with another employee who's making the same amount of money. I can't I can't do that, right? You have to have a training wage and learn and figure that out. So I think there's a lot of bridges that need to be, how you say, a lot of gaps that need to be bridged before we can
For sure.
have like a seamless transition from school to the field.
Well, that seems like a great segue because you said something that will help bridge a gap or conversation to bridge the gap is you said that there's once in a while a woman that will be in the trade school. You know, you and I both know there's not enough women in the trades. Like curious what your thoughts on and like attracting more women into the trades and how they can like get excited about the opportunity because I see it, you know, I've been here 10 years now. The world's the oyster. There's so much opportunity, but you just got to get your foot in somewhere and there's so much available.
I think that I've been to several job fairs around town here, and it's really interesting to watch women. It's funny because women are just a hot commodity, right? We're women, we're a hot commodity. But women at a HVAC job fair, holy moly! If you're just standing there holding your resume, you're going to attract a lot of attention at these HVAC job fairs because everybody wants to employ women. There's a bunch of reasons. They have better empathy. They have better, just a better understanding of how to interact with clients. Like the communication skills are different. There's a whole host of reasons. If a woman is in the HVAC industry, 9 times out of 10, she's going to be super hungry. She knows what she's up against and she understands that even if it comes to her easy, she may have to work a little harder. It's just the way it is, but she's up for the challenge is what it comes down to. I think that if more women were to get into the field, that they would have an easier time finding work. And I don't think there's any lack of acceptance. I think we all are very anxious to hire women. In my company as well, but I'm a woman-owned company and we brag about it all over town. And then when I get the question was, either are you coming out to my house to do the service or are you sending a woman to do my service? I have to say, I can't come out and do your service because I'm not technically knowledgeable. I know enough to get me in trouble, but not enough to actually do your service. I'd rather send a qualified technician to your house because I might mess something up or to have a female technician to be able to say, hey, yeah, I'm sending a female technician to you. I think that would be fantastic. I have had a couple of times clients call in and specifically say, I would like a female technician. Yeah. It's like, and females asking, and it's for the safety factor, like that I'm more comfortable having a woman come into my house to provide the service than I am having a man to come in. I don't know, everybody's got their own story. I don't, never know the reason why for that. But when I heard that the first time, I totally understood why a woman would want to have another woman come in versus having a man come in to their home to provide a service. So there's a lot of room for it. I think that there's plenty of space to have more and more women. Tapping into the how is really going to be, I think, the hard part.
I agree. Like I am always interested to hear like what's people's perspective on bringing more women in the trade. I mean, we need more people in the trade, but we need more women too. And so I think it's like, again, it starts with education and the things that you're doing, right, to get involved. And like they see someone like you that's successful, a business owner, and they're like, that can be me.
It's that whole if I can see her, I can be her frame of
1,000%.
mind. Yeah.
Yeah. Which I've heard that before
so,
during one of our fun little trips that we got to do in January, which you're, I don't know what they call it. You're like kind of one of the founding members with Catherine, our Sisterhood group. And tell me a little bit about that and like how it started. And this is one of my favorite things that I've joined. I even texted you before I did join. I was super vulnerable. I'm like, I don't know if this is for me. Like, I'm in the trade, but I'm not in the trade. And you're like, just do it. And I'm like, fine, I'll do it.
I think I said to you, I'll be there. Just go.
Yes, that might have been the actual conversation.
Yeah. But yeah, so, all right. So as I mentioned earlier, Catherine and I are friends. And during the time when the sisterhood kind of was bubbling, it's kind of always been sitting in the back of Catherine's mind, I think, for a while. And I went to I didn't even really go to the event, but there was an event here in town. And I was like, hey, all my friends are here at this event. I'm just going to go and like have dinner with them, like just tag along and see everybody. And so I did. And it was after that event that she sat down and she was like, what do you think? I'm thinking of starting a group for us, like our people that really just focuses on, our goals within the industry and empowering women, creating a sisterhood that we just support each other through that. What do you think? Could do some self-development, some business development? Is there a space for that? And of course, me, I'm extremely supportive. Like, absolutely. You do that, I'm going to help you. You do that, I'm going to scream from the mountaintops that this is, my friend is doing this and it makes sense. And then when it all started to kind of work itself out, it did make sense. It made sense that, we needed a community, not just a place that we go to once a year that says, hey, I'm a woman in the industry and so are you, and here's some tips and self-development stuff and now go, but a continuing community where we have each other to lean on and talk to and interact with. And so I wasn't involved with the starting of the Sisterhood, but I am a founding member of the Sisterhood. And I definitely had a great deal of insight in the beginning as to like what was going on and why and how and all that fun stuff. And it's been a great space for us just to get together, learn how to develop these skills that we need to develop to move on towards the next thing. And one thing that Catherine always says that I love is that we're a group of women that are doing the thing that we want to do, right? So we're developing ourselves to be who we want to be. It doesn't matter what that is. What it is for you is what we're supporting. So if you're trying to be the best president of an HVAC company that has ever existed, we're going to support you in that. If you're trying to be the best mom, then we're going to support you on that. Whatever your goal is the goal that we're supporting for you. And it's amazing what happens when you put a group of women together that are not competing, because we're not competing. We're just helping. We're supporting. We're giving advice. We're lifting each other up. It's the most amazing thing. What do you think?
No, I agree. I think like I was intimidated because I was like, oh my gosh, there's all these like bad bees on this in this group. And I'm like, I'm just a little account executive at Contractor Commerce. And when Catherine sent me a message, I was like, wow, like this is really cool. This is such a good opportunity. And I think I looked at it from the standpoint of like, I can learn from these women. I may not own my own business, or I may not be a president of a company or a mom, but I can definitely learn something, and I love to learn. And when I was like, you know what, I'm buying a plane to Utah, I'm going to go out and just be a part of this, to see 30 women show up and stay in a house, like not really knowing each other and sleeping in bunk beds and like being super vulnerable and going around the room and saying why we're there and what's important to us. And just even like the aftermath of it, the group that we have and people throwing ideas out there, or even just people sending a message and saying, hey, how are you doing? How are you hitting your goals? Like they remember from, 7 months ago, like something that you said. And I'm like, this is wild. And I'm so, so glad that she did it. And she didn't listen to, I'm going to say, the haters. And she started it because it's been a great, great resource and community for me. And I know you and all the other women that are a part of it.
And we love Paul because Paul encouraged you, right?
He did. He
He
actually invested on me to go. And I like, there's something to say about that. Just with a boss that wants to pay for, and invest in you and get you better and grow that skill set. So Paul, if you're listening to this, thank you so much. We appreciate it.
Paul will listen. Paul, we love you.
Yeah. Kind of I know we've been chatting now for 40 minutes. I feel like I can talk to you all day long. Curious, like, what's on your mind for the rest of the year? Like, I know it's been kind of a slow year. It's been weird. And how do contractors roll the punches and just keep on moving and keep, like, I guess, like the glass half full mentality and not like look at the woes that some may be experiencing?
I've done a few things. So one of the things that I've done is I've built some new relationships in segments of our industry that previously I didn't even think of doing. So, I would love to brag about it and tell you exactly what it is, but I'm kind of fearful to do that, so I'm not going to. But so there's some segments of our industry where I've gone and I've made new relationships and we're getting new business from those relationships. That's occurring, and that's really big. That's just is helping us by leaps and bounds. And then, contrary to popular belief, I'm taking some time. We're taking some time, my husband and I both. So the last few years have been really emotionally, physically, mentally, like just draining, right? And especially when you work as hard as we did, like last year, like I was saying, it's all consuming when you're a business owner, and maybe even if you're not a business owner, if that's your job. But this summer, we've consciously halted marketing. So we're not doing any marketing right now. We have just a little teeny marketing budget. We have some postcards that go out to the neighbors of our of our clients when we do, when we do a service visit, then their neighbors will get a postcard. That's really it. That's all we're doing. We're doing a little bit of social media, just like random, normal social media posts and, maintaining our website and stuff like that. Minimal marketing. But we're really, I said this today jokingly, but it's the truth. We are super slow right now. There's hardly any demand. We're finally getting some warm days now here in Vegas. I think it's 100 today, which is awesome. But we've decided to buy a boat and take a day here and there and get out on the lake and have some rest days, which normally we're firm believers in no 0 days. We don't do 0 days. We're always working. But this summer we've decided, like, if there's a day that we can take, we're going to take it, because these opportunities don't really come very often. And so if we're going to maintain our $1 million a year, and we've whittled our staff down to almost nothing, and our overhead is almost non-existent, and we can make a lot more profit doing a lot less work and have a little bit of downtime, we're taking it, because we've been working really, really hard. So this year for us is just a year of figuring out, how do we feel? How do we enjoy ourselves a little bit before we really dig into whatever the next chapter looks like for us, and just kind of a reset.
I love that you guys are doing that, because it's hard. Like, not everybody could work with their spouse, number one. I mean, you were already talking about HVAC with Mark, Pillow Talk before you were in the business, and then to be, 5-6 years, like running and gunning and no 0 days, like that can catch up to anybody. And I think that's really important, not only with like your spouse, but like also your business partner too, to have like a step away, because man, if your mentals are right, Lord have mercy.
True. Yeah. So I think that's part of that thing. Like, we're really good at, we have been over the years just really good at looking at these situations and how it's affecting the other person. Like, there used to be a time before we even started our company, where Mark worked for another company here in town, previously owned by Ken Goodrich company. And he wasn't allowed to take time off from the middle of May to the end of September. They were not allowed to take vacation during that time period.
Wow.
It was like embargo dates or blackout dates or whatever. And I would plan him a trip and send him on a trip in October, because I knew that my husband was busting his butt the entire time and had no downtime and was working 6 or 7 days a week, every single week. And he was kind of at his wit's end. And then I would just ship him away. He would go have a great time. I would either send him with his best friend or send him to see his parents, or like go do something, or we would go together. We would just get out of town and like completely unplug. But the moral to that is that we're like, I know my partner enough to know, like, hey, you need a break. And I think that this time, kind of similarly, we just are like, we've been go, like trying to make things work. And good. I'm glad that we did, because who knows, if we didn't, maybe we would have had a 40% decline last year, and then we wouldn't have survived that, right? But now it's time to kind of look at it for where it is now, and how can we take a break? And then that'll fuel us for whatever the next thing is, whatever we decide, or however we decide to do this, right?
And I applaud you guys, because that's tough, right? Because a lot of people wouldn't maybe accept it, right? But you're taking care of like what's important, like each other, your relationship, and even the business, right? Like, you've had to make those tough challenges, and not a lot of people could do that. So hats off to you, Mark, for sure. Well, I have just a few rapid fire questions here at the end, so don't think too much on it. But
All
just
right.
gonna ask like just a few. And this one you'll love, but book everybody should read.
My gosh, book everyone should read. What's that one? Incredibly Bright Creatures. Don't watch don't watch the movie. Read the book.
Oh goodness. Okay. I haven't read that, so I'll add that to my to be read. What is your morning routine must have?
Coffee. Immediately. I wake up and it's coffee.
Okay. I love that. And one thing you're saying no to more often?
People. No used to be the hardest thing for me to do, but I'm saying no to people more often now.
I love that.
Yeah.
I get that, because I'm naturally can be a people pleaser as well, and it's tough. But when you learn it, it's you feel empowered in a way.
Yes, I was going to say it's empowering. So I started about 6 to 8 weeks ago. I think it was maybe closer to 8 weeks ago. I started doing Pilates, and I was like, hey, I'm going to try this. Let's see what happens. And after a few weeks of doing it, I was like, I did like a trial. And then I was like, I'm joining. Now I'm a 3 to 4 day a week Pilates girl, because I'm saying yes to me by doing that. And it it feels amazing. I feel amazing. On Pilates days, I am just firing on all cylinders. I have energy. Things are just so much better and brighter, and I feel more optimistic. And I say yes to Pilates as much as I possibly can.
But you answered my next question, which was one thing you're saying yes to more often, and that's Pilates.
That's the one. Yep.
Okay, couple more. Favorite leadership habit?
Reading. I have to say, like all of the reading leadership books. I read a lot of fiction, but I also make sure that I mix in for every 2 or 3 books that I read, I read some leadership stuff.
I like that. What keeps you motivated?
I think my grandson is my biggest motivation, and it's kind of selfish because I want to make all the memories with him that I possibly can. So he's my motivation to get healthy, stay healthy, have, money so I can do fun things with him, have free time so I can then spend time with him. I think my grandson's my biggest.
Oh, I love that too.
Yeah.
And the last one I have for you is, what's one filter you've changed in the last year? Now, filter, this is called change your filter. So context, right? But it's not necessarily an HVAC filter. Change your perspective, change your mindset, change your, insights. So think of it in that way.
Here's what's really interesting. I am constantly evaluating and adjusting. I feel like I do it a lot. Like I evaluate and I adjust. So I think that is probably it right there, like creating the filters so that I do evaluate and adjust. Because if it's not working, then I fix it, right? I try to constantly be looking at that, like, does that work? Does, keeping notes in a book, does that work? No, it doesn't. Let's adjust how we do that. Let's keep them digitally. Let's use an AI thing. Like I'm always evaluating and changing. So I think that that's it for me right there, is the ability to evaluate and change and constantly be changing my filters in all areas is probably kind of my jam.
It does. And I was going to say, man, I couldn't think of a better way to end. Jen, I love you so much. And I think it's amazing that you're my first person that I got to interview. And I really, really appreciate the time. And I think it's awesome what you guys are doing for your business, your relationship, and all the things you're doing to continue to grow also personally and professionally. So thanks for joining us, and love you so much.
I love you so much too.